Hey, this is Jason Barron, and this video is going to be going over our Tormach Mill. It's a PC 1100, and we're going to be doing a 3-inch part, which we'll show you in SolidWorks in just a moment. Before you do this project, you should have done the chain breaker project on the Bridgeport Mill, so you have some basic experience, and now you can come over to our CNC machine. So go ahead and cut your piece of metal 3 1/8 of an inch, so we have a little extra on each side. And before you put any piece of metal inside of the vise, you want to make sure you deburr it. So you can get the extra fine here, and you can go ahead and do it that way, or you could get a deburring tool and just go down and back. But make sure there's no burrs on these 8 sides. And by the way, this is 2 by 1 inch 6061 aluminum. So next is with the vise, you want to be sure to really have it clean. So get yourself a clean rag and really clean off the inside with your parallels. Make sure your parallels are really clean. And we're going to have this piece of metal stick out of the vise just about 1/8 of an inch. Go ahead and tighten it up good and tight. Also, it's helpful to install this stop here in a T-slot so that if this is touching your work right here, when you go to flip your part, you would not have to touch off the X again. All right, so I got my work in here secure. So now we need to turn on the machine. So there's 3 emergency stops. The way these things work is that's engaged, and then you twist it, and that's not. So twist clockwise here, clockwise here, clockwise there. There's the main power switch right back over here. 0 is off and 1 is on. So you want it on 1 here. Our controller, it's called a controller for the Tormach, is right here. The power button is right there. Then what you want to do is hit the green button, and you'll hear a little clunk. It'll make a little sound. That's a good thing. And as far as our coolant goes, normally we'd have it be on auto. The computer button we just leave on, and we leave this in forward. And depending on what we're doing, we might run the spindle, which is this here, manually or automatically. If you're doing it manually, this is the RPM, and it says right here RPM times 100. So if you're at 50, that's 5,000 RPM. So I'd say normally we have it at this for aluminum. And then the spindle lockout, when you're not using the machine, you want to have this off. When you're using the machine, you want the spindle to move, you want it on. If you leave this on overnight, what's going to happen is right here on the left side of the machine is the automatic oiler. It oils the ways, keeps it lubricated, and this will run every so many hours. So if you left this on the weekend, it's not good. You're going to be wasting way oil, lube. With the computer right here, a couple things. We have this button right here. It's a KVM button, keyboard, video, mouse. So basically what this button does is it toggles between our district computer and our machine controller. So that way you have 1 mouse, 1 keyboard for the 1 monitor. If you start the Tormach computer up and this is really big and you can't even see the side of the screen, what you want to do is make sure you turn on the district computer first and then the Tormach controller second. That should fix it. Okay, so once this is up and running, the first thing you want to do is you want to hit the reset button. All right, so hit the reset button. That goes away. That's a good thing. And after that, what you want to do is send the machine home. and that means you want to reference the X, reference the Y, and reference the Z, and the machine's going to hit all of its limit switches, and you want to do this anytime you have an E-stop, and anytime it's a new session. You want to do this. Send a machine home. So we did that. Next thing over here, so we got the machine home. We can see there's green circles right here on the X, Y, Z. Next thing you want to do is I would move this down to 10%. We'll go over that in a little while. Also, I'm going to set this at 25 for right now. I'll show you that too later. This T stands for tool, and we have an automatic tool changer. We don't really want you going in this menu at all, but you can see we have 10 different tools, and we'll show you the library pretty soon. But really, just stick in the main tab. You want to look up here and make sure there's nothing in here. If there's nothing in here, if there is something in there, you're going to want to store it. We'll go over that soon. But for right now, and the tool here, this is important. The way you should leave the machine is with nothing in the spindle. So when you're starting a new job, hopefully nothing's in the spindle. But if you press 0 here, it'll put back the tool in the tool changer. All right, so also make sure the feed rate's at 100, RPM's at 100, and that's kind of an introduction to that. On the left side of the monitor, if you plug a USB thumb drive in here, this actually goes to our Tormach computer. So what you want to do is go to File. Up here, press USB. It should show it. Double click it, and then here's my file. Once you find your file, you want to copy from USB and put it on the hard drive. So it goes from here over to here. So there it is. I like to put a V in a number, so if I do revisions, it's really clear to me that, hey, I'm doing the front of the part. It's version 2. So you want to double click it, and what I've done here is I've given names to all my operations, so it's very, very clear, like bearing hole. As far as this screen goes, the mouse wheel zooms you in and out. If you press the mouse wheel down, it pans. And if you right click, you can go to different views. I usually might check out ISO. You can clearly tell that our X and Y is right here in the upper left corner. And I have these 4 holes, a bearing hole, and some text. So I'd say on this screen it's really important that your X and Y is where you think it is, so that we don't have a crash the machine. Okay, so we got the file ready. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove tool 1. Tool 1 is a 1/2 inch end mill, so I press 1 here. Again, the spindle is empty, and now it's going to ask here, use ATC, use automatic tool changer to fetch tool. Yes, I want to do that. But read these messages clearly, because if you make a mistake and something's in there and it thinks it's empty, you could have a crash. So the spindle's empty. I want to fetch it. Yes. Is spindle empty? Click OK to continue. Yes, the spindle is empty. All right, now we want to get used to using this here. So if I move this outer wheel, if I press X, move the outer wheel in clockwise position, it's going to go on the positive X axis. So this is positive X, and this is negative X. And then you want to practice with the Y. If I press this direction, the table is moving that direction. And this is negative Y, positive Y. Z is up and down, so clockwise is positive. It's going to go towards the sky, up, and counterclockwise is down. Then we have this inner wheel for doing very, 1,000 type moves. So one thing I see robotics do a lot of times is they'll take this piece, they'll go over to the Bridgeport mill, they'll go ahead and shave it here to have a clean cut. And I think part of that is they don't know how to use this as a manual mill. So I just want to demonstrate, shaving this before we start, getting a nice clean cut, and then we'll use the probe to get it. So be careful here. All right, so now when it comes to CNC, we do our virtual runs in the computer, but then we always do a dry run before we actually cut metal. So what I'm going to do right now is do a dry run. I'm going to simulate us shaving off this left side here. So again, on the computer, what's critical right now is that we have 10 here. Now if I move the up and down arrow key on the keyboard, so up arrow key, it's moving it, if you look right here, it's moving it at 11 inches per minute, approximately. That is a very conservative, safe speed to run a 1/2 inch end mill at. So by just holding down the up and down arrow keys, I could shave this part. So right now I'm doing a dry run, about 11 inches per minute, perfect. You don't need cutting fluid to cut aluminum, but cutting fluid does help to not have the aluminum get so hot that it gums this up. So I would say without cutting fluid, it takes a little more skill. You have to make sure you're not melting the aluminum and having it clog up here. So we do run cutting fluid or a mister or a chiller when we're doing aluminum normally, but when you're just doing a quick little face here, I wouldn't bother with it. So I've done a dry run, and that's important. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this tool down. So the tool is below my metal, and we're going to go ahead and fire up the spindle. So up here, we have the spindle lockout is on 1, which is on. We have it on manual. The RPMs are all the way up at 5,000. I'm going to hit start. Okay. Normally we'd close the door down, but for this demonstration, we're going to have it up so you can clearly see. So I'm going to press the X button here and just go up very close. I could use the wheel now that I'm really close. So you can hear it now. Now I'm going to press the Y button. Actually, no. Now I got touching the metal. Now I'm going to go over to the keyboard, and I'm just going to press the down arrow key and the up arrow key. And if I didn't take enough off, if you look at the side here, If you have to go a little bit more over, you can. You can just press the X button and go a little more over. All right, perfect. So just showing you how you can just easily use this as a manual mill, just to take a clean edge off. So now what you want to do is, while we're here in this position, we're going to go ahead and set the X at 0. So on the keyboard here, you can type 0, but I'm just going to click this button here. And so our X is set perfectly now with tool 1. So that's important. So now I'm going to go ahead and raise it up. And then over here where it says T0, I'm going to go ahead and hit 0, enter. Use automatic tool changer to store tool. Yes. All right, so now I'm going to type in under tool 99. 99 is our probe. So back over here in the corner, try and keep it out of the way. You don't want to, we want to keep this covered and stored facing the sky. And make sure this guy's tight. If you break this, it's about $30 for this little white piece, so you don't want to do that. This is our probe. You want to handle it with a lot of care. And up here we have this lock release. So if I go like this, I can press lock and then let go. And to get it out, release. So this is used pneumatics, air powered. So I press release, locked. Okay, good. So now with the probe, what we're going to do is, on this probe screen here, this red dot is the probe and the green area is your metal. And so we're going to use this instead of an edge finder to find set our X and Y. So again, be careful with this thing. Now our X is already set, but our Y is not set. That's why it's important to have your piece come out of the vise enough so that this probe can get it in the middle of the ball here. Mine is barely high enough for that. Let's just set the X anyways, just in case, so we know how to do that. So we kind of want the midline of the ball to be positively touching the metal. And then on the probe, this picture right here looks like my situation. My probe is to the left of the metal. That's what I want. So I'm going to press this button. Don't hit Find X. Just hit this. So now I'm going to press the button. It's going to do a quick tap and then a second tap. That's how it works. So now my X is set. And for the Y, I'm going to go ahead and raise it up a little bit. Okay, so now I have my probe on this side. Again, you want to have the parallels so that your piece is high enough. And now it looks like this picture right here, probe, my metal, is the right one. So it's going to touch it once, touch it twice. That's done. It's got the X and Y set. Last is Z. Z is over here. The probe is above the metal like the picture says, so I'll click this. Now, I'm going to go to the main screen. It says MDI here. It's kind of grayed out, but it stands for manual data input. I always start off with G0 space X0 space Y0. And we're going to do this just to make sure that you did it right. Always a good idea to have your hand on the E-stop when you do this. Okay, so now I'm going to press enter. And I would just say, visually ask yourself, does it look like the probing went well? And I would say, yeah, the probing went well. So now we are done with using the probe. So I'm going to go ahead and take it back. If our probe was damaged, you could always use an edge finder, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to put it back. So I'm going to hold on to it, release, turn it like this, put our bag over it, and then we put it out of the way. All right. So we got the X, Y, and Z set. Show you another thing or two here. Let me go ahead and fetch out tool 1 again. Now, just so you know, we've had a situation where we've crashed the machine. Tool 1's in there. This says 1. That's what you want. But if it had, for some reason, a wrong number in here, then the offset would be different, and you could crash the machine. So again, verify. It says 1 here. I'm using tool 1. So now I'm going to go to MDI. I'm going to type in G0 space Z0. Okay. Hands on the E-stop button, and okay, you can see with your eyes it looks like that's right where it should be. But now we want to do a dry run, and the way we're going to do it is right here on the screen here. We're going to go ahead and say that this is -2. I'm going to press enter. If I go and I type in the MDI, I type in G0 space Z0, hands on the E-stop. So now it thinks that's my 0 now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is a dry run. We have, before we do this, we have our machine referenced, right? We have the file loaded. And we're going to have this 100%, 100%. Coolant will definitely turn off. And we can even turn off the spindle, but leave it on too. But we definitely want to have this be on auto. So we'll have that be on auto. And the coolant should be on auto as well. So now my hand's on the E-stop, and I'm going to hit cycle start. Kind of looking also on the monitor. Looking at the monitor and also looking at your machine. So now a tool change requires me to hit cycle start. So okay, tool change again, cycle start. Okay, so that completes our dry run. So I'm going to go ahead and under Tool, press 0, and go ahead and store it. Store tool, yes. All right, then we could have done with that tool, but just to keep things consistent, go ahead and remove tool 1. Make sure you're away from the vise area so this thing can go down. Don't ever do this on top of the piece. But now we're going to press G0, space Z0, hands on the E-stop, and there it is. So now, to do it for real, because we pressed -2 before, now we're going to press 2, enter, and now you'll see if I hit the up arrow key, you can recall your last command. So now it should go down right there. So now we're ready to do our real operation. 0 for the tool. All right, so now we've got to hook up the coolant. Let's see. All right. Normally the coolant would come on automatically, but we're having a slight problem. But normally the coolant come on automatically, and you can always turn the coolant off and on with this button here. So just one thing you might want to know too is that with the feed rate, if it's your first time, there's nothing wrong with putting the feed rate, say, down at like 75 and just running it a little slower and increasing it more. Another thing to know is that the space bar on the keyboard is basically a pause button. So if things aren't going right, something sounds different, you're not sure, don't press the E-stop. Instead, hit the space bar. Okay, I'll demonstrate that as well. You also could hit single block to do one operation at a time, but let's do it now. You don't have to do this, but if you want to just take a quick look, just to make sure the holes are where you think they are. I want to show you an example. Let's just say something didn't sound right. You can hit the space bar right now. And you know, if you thought something was not looking good, you can just pause it, take a look. Everything looks fine actually. So now I could just go to my, start this up. And hit cycle start. Great, we got done with this first part here, and you know, you can see here, one thing I'm seeing here is that the engraving went pretty well here, but then here it's pretty rough, and we're still experimenting with purchasing and experimenting with different engraving tools and the right feeds and speeds. So, but definitely worked pretty well there, and it's exactly 3 inches. And so hopefully now you can do this and do more advanced projects after that. All right, so thanks for watching.